et cetera, et cetera. And under project management, consolidate. And that's going to basically bring everything into the session to set this feature from here on out. So it's always kind of running in the background. You're going to want to go into your project settings, assets, and copy all of the information. You'll notice that I don't have copy movie file into project, and that's because I'm not working with a movie file right now. So otherwise I would enable that, but I'm not. So that is that. And then something else to consider for the future is just make sure your advanced settings here are all on. I'm currently not using surround, so I'm going to disable that. All right. And it's funny how much that changed the screen. Let me see if that goes back. No. But that, yeah, that was pretty wild. I wasn't expecting that big of a change. Um, okay, let's see what else. Yeah, I think that's it. So once you do that, you consolidate, then you zip everything, and then you should be in good standing. Let's go back to the user guide and see what it has to say. For a project to open and play on another computer, all the same assets must be available, either in the project itself or the computer. So samples, et cetera, et cetera. Before copying your projects to another hard drive or uploading them to the internet, be sure to include all assets, right? So we just went through. Oops, hold on. Um, hold on. Sorry, guys. I don't know where that took me to. Okay. So after that, by default, Logic Pro saves projects as a special kind of file. So you have two ways to save files inside of Logic Pro. Save it as a package or a folder. So a package which non-Apple formatted hard drives and internet services do not support. So you might as well use folder. To ensure that your project opens properly, you need to compress the Logic package before copying or uploading. And we went through this, command. Actually, it's control click and then choose compress. It looks like you can go to file compress. I didn't actually know that, so let's check that out real quick. So let's say I wanted to compress this file. You click on it. You make sure it's in focus. You go to file, and do we have the ability to compress here? No. So this am I missing it? Oh, there it is right there. Compress piano ideas. All right, good. So you would compress that, creates a zip. Awesome. What else? If you're using third-party compression software, please refer to its user guide. When you share a project to GarageBand for iOS, you can also share the project as a ringtone to your iPhone or iPad. How about that? That's pretty cool. Highlight that. All right, page 868. All right, so let's talk about bouncing projects. This is actually much deeper than one would think. Lots of detail here, so let's get right into it. You can render, bounce a project to a single audio file or to multiple audio files. A project can be bounced to several different file formats, all depending on who you're working with, what the requirements are. If you're bouncing to get something mixed, exporting, right, all sorts of stuff. A surround sound project can be bounced to a set of surround audio files. Projects can be bounced either in real time or offline. So offline is typically faster. Right? It's kind of like the newer thing to do. All parameters, effects, and automation on the unmuted tracks in the project are recorded as part of the bounced file. So notice they said unmuted because obviously if something is muted, it's not playing back. The format of the resulting bounce depends on the format of the output channel strip. So if you have output 1 and 2, which is default, and if you don't really know what you're doing, this is all going to happen automatically. Um, and produces a stereo audio file. So once you bounce something, it's going to produce what they call a stereo audio file or a two-wave stereo file. When the output channel strip is set to mono, a mono audio file is generated. So you probably wouldn't want to do that, but let's just talk about the who, what, where, when, why, how. So you can see that this is my stereo output right here where it says mix bus. And so let's just pretend I didn't have all these plugins instantiated. And I convert this. See how I've converted it um, to a mono channel. So if I bounce this, everything's going to kind of collapse to mono. But to be clear, this is a summing bus that I created. So for those of you that are a little bit more advanced, but if we go to the main stereo output, which I have retitled meters, just because I like to have fun with this stuff. But this is the stereo output. Okay. So you see that input format button right there. So right there, if I click on that, you see now it's turned into one. And so essentially what's going to happen is that it's going to bounce in mono. But to be clear, it really isn't one. I believe it's actually two. Yeah, it's like this one and that one from what yeah, see how it's two mono? But because you're only going to be running the sound through, I believe, this one, the stereo output, then you'll get a straight mono file. Okay, let's go back. Hold on. Okay. So when the output channel strip is set to mono, a mono audio file is engineered or generated rather. Okay, so that's actually another good point. So let's see here. If the stereo output is being sent out via mono, then that could be something too, right? So like again, this is stereo. It says stereo, but I changed it to mono, and so it's going to convert the file. In fact, let's just try it. Let's see how this goes. Let me just play this and see what it sounds like. All right, so it looks like one. So I'll hit Command A, Command U. That's going to create a selection around all my various markers. And so then I'm just going to reduce the selection because the song right doesn't go that far out. If you really want it to be detailed, you would create like a fade like this on the stereo out. Okay, cool. So we did that. And then I will bounce this. Let's just do an MP3 for now. And we're going to do this offline because it's faster. Okay. So then we're going to send this out. See if we'll just call this mono test command D. All right. Looking for this on the desktop. I'll drag it in and then we will read if this is a stereo file or a mono file. Now remember that all of this is being routed to the stereo output, which I collapsed to mono. Okay, so got the file right here. I drag it into the sesh. First, we'll look at it visually just to see what's happening, what information is it giving us. And then after that, we'll get some actual numbers and figures. I don't know why this is taking so long. All right. Well, I hope you guys are well. It's been such a journey to do this. I hope that I've been able to help you along. I know this has helped me tremendously. So again, thank you for the space, for the opportunity. Been having a great time, and we're gonna finish strong. Okay, so you can see that I kind of expanded the file, and while this seems like a stereo file, when I look at the images, they look exactly the same. But again, let's not trust just the visual. So I'm gonna press play and let's just look at the channel strip right here and see what it reads and what it looks like. Hold on. Okay, so by now it's suggested that basically because we bounced just one side of this, uh, where was it? Here, let's click there. This mono channel strip, it didn't get the full readout. It was only getting one channel. So theoretically, if I then solo this one and I bounce, we should be able to drag it in. So you don't want to do that though, just to be clear. You should just set this to stereo, let that exist as a that's rendering there, but yeah, let that exist as a stereo channel strip and then get to work, right? Just let that be. I don't know why you would want to ever separate them like that, but it's good to at least know the behavior of the program or at least do our best to understand um, the why behind it. So, okay, I'll click one more time. Let's see if this collapses back into stereo. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going, let that process in the background. Should probably close a couple programs. But let's go. Let's see, saving processing resources when the output channels. Okay. Bounce files can be reused in Logic Pro, saving processing resources by replacing or bypassing multiple regions, instruments, and effects. Bounces. So this is interesting. If you ever have like a track stack, um, or a whole session, and there's a bunch of stuff just taking a lot of energy. Maybe you have some really big uh, reverbs, altiverb. Maybe you're using just very CPU heavy, I don't know, RX or something. Um, you can actually bounce out of the session and then drag it back in. And they're not saying bounce to audio, like bouncing the region within the session. They're saying is you could bounce this and reuse it. Why? Because it's going to save processing resources by replacing or bypassing multiple regions. So you could bypass a plugin, and that is ultimately going to save CPU resources. Same goes for instruments, same goes for effects. But you got to remember that sometimes you still want it in the session. Like I don't know, maybe what if you need to change something? Then you're gonna have to kind of like reverse engineer. So if you bounce it to audio and then mute everything, bypass everything, and then hide it, you can have the best of both worlds, right? So I guess maybe I should explain that. Um, all of us know how to control B and bounce this region to audio. If I could take that one step further, I actually bounced all of these to audio, but let's just say I had a bunch of plugins on this one, like that and that, right? So now I can bounce not just the region to a new track, but I can actually replace this. How do I do that? I go to File, Bounce, not and replace all tracks because that would literally just render everything, but track in place. So that's Control Shift Command B. So let's check this out. What's this going to do? I'm going to replace the track that I'm currently using, and I'm going to utilize the plugins that I have instantiated. I'm not going to bypass the effect plugins. I'm going to use them within this render. You'll see that Logic does its work in the background, bounces the track, but doesn't create a new track per se. It's just going to replace. And look at the plugins on the left. No more plugins because they've been burned into that specific performance, right? So what they're saying in Logic, though, and the user guide is like, let's say all these drums were in a track stack. Well, you'll find that sometimes you'll try and do this whole, bounce thing, control B, and you'll do it, but it won't sound the same. And it's hard exactly to describe why. I don't know if the sends effects behave differently, but sometimes it's not going to sound the same, right? Maybe it has to do with the routing. Whatever the case may be, hit S, solo the track, hit Command B, render this outside of the session. You can do it offline if you're not using any hardware or anything like that. Bounce it out of the session, okay? And then once you hit OK, drag it back in. And that's a really good workflow. That would pertain mostly to track stacks, um, any binds that you're currently. I know sometimes we want to bounce the effects. You can see I have an effects. Wait, do I? No, not on this session. Oh, here it is, right here. So this right here is all of my effects processing that's happening in the session, and so you could render that way as well if you wanted to. Okay, so we're gonna bounce the current project audio file. Okay, um, let's see. I just want to. So they give you some examples of what you can do with these masters. Yeah, this is all awesome. You could really do anything with them. So let's go ahead and bounce a current project and go from there. So Logic Pro, make sure that the tracks you want to include in the bounce are routed to the main output 1 and 2. Okay. If I go into my session here, you can see, and let me go to tracks. This is a lot easier to view. There's 3 mixers. I mean, it's the same mixer, but you're viewing them in 3 different ways. So the tracks mixer is really nice. So if we start to look at the mixer as a whole, let me hide a couple tracks. You can see that they're all being routed. See how it says stereo output routed? This one is being sent to bus 101. Um, not that one, bus 101. And so when we, in effect, go into bus number one, I'll shift click bus that 101 there, and you'll see that I'm routing this, creating summing buses, and I'm just kind of creating a system for myself so I can work in post production, right? And I actually think this is a lot faster because you can work on the group and not necessarily work on the track level. Yeah. So let me hide this track. And so these groups, though, the synth group, the piano, the pluck, the bass, etc., these are all being routed to bus 88. Oh, right. So then, yeah, I misspoke earlier. This is not an effects bus. This is a mix bus. Oh, wait a minute. No, no, no. That's right. These are all my effects right here. I think bus number two. Uh, hold on. I'm just gonna try and confirm this. Yeah, all of my buses. Mm, no, no, no. Actually, I don't think that's it. Where's bus number two coming from then? Sorry, it's been a minute since I worked on this track. Maybe like 2 weeks, and we work on a lot of tracks here, so hard to reverse engineer sometimes. Let me hold shift and see if maybe I can find. Yeah, yeah. So it is because you can see that these are all of my effects. Okay, I'm done. Okay, so then all of these, my good friends, are being routed to the mix bus. Let's look at their output. Bus 88 going to bus 88 here. All right, and why am I doing it this way? Efficiency, fun, interest, and I believe ultimately this leads to the greatest uh, mix for me, not necessarily in general, but I feel it yields the best results for me. I can stay organized. I can use meters. I can use a lot of plugins. It helps me out. All right, so all of this is being routed to bus 88, and on bus 88, guess what? This is where I put all of my plugins. I'm gonna reset this linear EQ because I had some other kind of processing on it. So let me just reset that really quick. I'll hold shift, click on the EQ thumbnail, and then that will bring that up. And so now everything is being routed there. And oh, we hear a little bit here. Yeah, very cool. One of my publishers reached out to me and they wanted something in the world of Narcos and El Chapo and stuff like that. And I thought, man, it'd be cool if we put like Latin elements. I'm Mexican, and so we put some Latin elements, and then we put on like that tension TV music, and it was a nice little marriage there. So anyway, we understand routing now, and we understand that basically if this stereo output is not being sent to 1 and 2, I'm not going to hear the bounce properly, right? In fact, you're not going to hear it at all unless you have special routing. But generally speaking, for most of us, all of this has to be routed to 1 and 2, right? You want to make sure that nothing is muted. Otherwise, again, you're not going to hear it. If your project has multiple output channel strips, you can bounce only the tracks routed to a specific output channel strip using the bounce button on that channel strip. You can bounce only the tracks routed to that specific. Okay, so hold on. Check this out. If we go to the mixer, let me bring this up. Scroll to the right. So you see how there's a bounce button right here? So this right here tells it all. It's saying, hey, this is the one that's in charge. This is where everything is going. I wonder, this would be my first time doing this, so I'm just really curious. What if I have output? So I have a summing mixer, so I sometimes use this for other things. But hold on, let me just see. If I go to output 3 and 4, oh, check that out. I never saw that. So if you have hardware, external gear, I'm curious to know more usages. But if you bounce this, then you're only going to get the stuff that's being routed to that specific channel, right? So right now I've got everything routed to stereo out 1 and 2. But again, if you wanted to to come out of somewhere else, then that's something that you can do. All right, so we're gonna bounce this track. Let me go ahead and go back to the mixer, hit C, and we're gonna see the bounce dialog. When you select a destination format, um, bounce options for that format appear to the right. Okay, so Command B. My format's gonna be MP3 just for now. We're gonna go over everything, but just to kind of make this quick. And then it says to limit the bounce to only a part of the project, adjust the start and end value sliders. You can click up and down arrows as well, or click on one of the numerals and enter a new value. So personally, for me, I don't like dealing with the start stop. Why? Because I don't see a visual indicator of what's going on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like um nothing is changing even though I'm changing the settings here. And that's disturbing to me because I need to know exactly what's happening, when it's happening, why it's happening. So this is the reason that I purposefully use the cycle region before I bounce, because it's a lot more pragmatic, it's a lot more calculated than let's say I don't use it, right? And I hit command B. All of a sudden, I'm left to the devices of the session. I'm saying, "Hey session, let me know what I should do here." And what it's suggesting is based on the project start and project end, as you can see, -1, and then on the far right outside of the screen display, we have 82. And so that's not going to work for me because it's not going to be specific enough. And I don't want to cause myself more work. And I don't want to, when I send this to clients, publishers, prospects, I don't want it to seem rookie, right? And so the cycle region, I believe, is really the way to go. It's not the official way per se, but it really is way more locked in terms of just execution. So, um, again, I'm exporting or bouncing, should I say, an MP3. Here are some options that I have available to me. We're going to go over all of this in detail. They're just giving you a quick overview. If the cycle mode is on, you can adjust the start and end value sliders, and so that's what I suggest there. To avoid having reverb and other effect tails cut off at the end of the project, set the end position a little bit past the end of the last region. So that's actually really good advice. But really, you should be doing this manually, right? Like I showed you earlier. In fact, let's check out my session right now. See how I have the stereo track 57? I created this fade, right? Because I needed to know that this was going to work. So let's play this from the end here. All right, so remember that this is the stereo output, so it's taking all the channels, including all your auxes, effects, and because I'm creating a fade, everything will in fact be faded, including the effects. All right, so what they're suggesting here is like, let's say you didn't fade it manually. It's like, hey, you might just want to bring this out a little bit further. It's like, no, 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 let's just be a little bit more specific, right? So we're not here just to read the user guide per se. That's obviously the main attraction. But the idea is that I'm going to give you some tips here that are going to help you out, or at the very least, you'll hear some tips that have helped me, and perhaps they can resonate with you, or you can pass them on to somebody else that may need them. So page 869, set the bounce mode by selecting one of two buttons, real time or offline. What's it going to be? So that is located right here, real time, offline. See the benefits of both. It's not just hardware, there's actually some other benefits. So let's read. Real time. Use this setting when you want to bounce audio and software instrument tracks or external MIDI sound sources that are routed to the mixer via aux channels. Okay, so right there, they're already giving you some information. If you have external MIDI sound sources that are routed to the mixer via aux channels, this may be something that you need to do because let's say a drum machine is being picked up, right? It's clocked in, everything's locked in. You press play. If you do it in offline, it's not gonna remember that. It's not gonna code that and burn it into the file. All right, offline is way more efficient, right? It can be faster for more complex projects, can perform bounces not possible in real time. because they might exceed the processing power of your computer. Let me give you an example. FabFilter L2, probably one of the most popular plugs in the game. I see a lot of professionals use it, and let's see. Hopefully, this is instantiated. No, um, it. Let me just look for it manually. It has the ability to output with a very high quality. Right down here, oversampling is very CPU intensive. For most of us, with just regular computers, if you will, you try and bounce that in real time, it's not going to work. It's just too powerful. So offline bouncing, really incredible, and will really help you out when it comes to more complex mixes. Okay. Um, let's read here. Only internal sources can be bounced offline. So any external hardware, MIDI tracks, drum machines, whatever, not going to work. Offline bouncing is available only for output channel of devices using native core audio drivers, not for DSP based audio hardware, which can only be bounced in real time. Okay, for additional control over effects tails, select either of the following mode options. Okay, so this is cool. Now we get something new. So first we have bounce second cycle pass. The bounce process takes 2 repetitions of the cycle range into account. With the creation of the bounce file starting at the second repetition, this is useful if you want to affect tails from the first cycle pass to be added um, to the start of the bounce file. When we created loops and samples for sounds.com, you can check out that R&B pack. I had to use this because a lot of the parts had a fair amount of reverb. And so if you bounce from the very beginning, you're not going to get the tail of the reverb, right? And so I'll have to show you an example here. But basically, when you enable this, it actually starts bouncing at the beginning of the first, or I'm sorry, the ending of the first pass. Okay. Before I show you an example, this one here, you already know what this does. If there's reverb on the channel strip or what have you, this is going to extend as far as necessary to include any instrument release and effects tail. Let's read the note. Some plugins, including plugins used for mastering and the test oscillator, can add noise. In which case, do not select this because it's going to bounce a file that would be too long. If you want a file that's an hour long or 2 hours, then go ahead and select that. Let me show you a quick example. Let's see if I could bounce just like a kick or a snare. Let me listen to this kick really quick. Okay. Okay. This is good. So you hear that it has a fair amount of reverb, yeah? So what if, boom, I added, and let's make it obvious. Let's do a delay so we can really hear just like some back and forth. So I'm gonna go stereo delay here. All right, let's listen to this. Okay. So remember, if I bounce right now, just straight away, it's going to just get the beginning here. In fact, let me just do all this. So first bounce, right? Okay. All right. Forgive the misspelling, but you get the point. We're not here for English. All right. So let's listen to that. All right. So it took the reverb into effect. Does that make sense? Okay. But what if we did this? Okay. So hear me out here. What? Oh, not that. What if? Hold on. Boom, boom. We have the same file, yeah, but it actually starts midway through. So this time you'll have silence at the beginning of the file, like that, and then the kick with the delay. Listen. Okay. So if I bounce it like this, and I'll just call this test one, you're going to hear silence, and then you're going to hear, okay, good. All right. So let's listen to that. Here we go. Silence. Here, let me bring this in screen. I hope you guys can see this. Yeah, there's the file right there. So there's silence, and then it's the kick. Listen. Oh, here. Okay, silence, and then the kick, right? Okay, let's Command Z. Hold on. All right, so this is the same file now as before. We have the stereo delay, but this time we're going to say, hey, can you bounce during the second cycle? So don't bounce the first time, bounce the second. Check it out. This is really cool. We'll call this test now. Send it over to the desktop. Check this out. All right, it's going to do it again. Bouncing this time. All right, listen to it. Here we go. You see the delay? All right, let me drag this in the session so you see that this is no witchery. All right, there's an audio track right there. Here's test now. Okay, so there's that delay I was telling you about right there. In fact, let me bring up the waveform display. Check it out. The delay. And then the actual performance, if you will. So it was the delay first. Okay. And so that's the point there. Okay, what else we got? Include audio tail. Again, if you don't include that, basically, I guess I could use it with this example. So you hear all the delay, check it out. Okay, if I bounce this right now, this is going to just be chopped off. Like quite literally, it's just going to just hit and cut off. Watch, it's gonna sound abrupt. Let's call this cut one. Hope you guys are hearing this too. I don't know if the way I have it routed, but regardless, you can try it. But here it is, cut one. It's going, and cut. See how it's unnatural insofar as its performance goes. So let's do the same thing, except we will include the audio tail this time around, and we'll call this cut now. All right, so this time what you're going to hear is a very natural performance. We'll play all the way through and then stop. So look at this. Keeps going, very natural. Still going. In fact, let me drag that in. Hold on. Ah, okay, check this out. Right? It's not an abrupt cut. It takes its time until finally at the end it dies down, right? But otherwise it's going very strong. Man, I'm gonna have to Command Z all this. Still want the song in case we need to use it for some reason. Okay, cool. All right, reset everything. I think everything's good now. Yes. All right. All right. So normalizing. This is something that essentially you just shouldn't do, especially if you're new. Just please turn this off. There are some people that use it. I'm sure it has some purposes. M- Maybe even like you want a quick master just to play this for somebody so it's loud enough. I do think that there's some technical ways to use this, not necessarily when bouncing in post production, but when taking in songs as a mixer. But yeah, generally speaking, this should just be set off because it's going to affect the quality of your mix, right? If you have it set to overload protection, it's only going to take place for I think anything that clips, but no normalization takes place for lower levels. And so that's going to be weird because it's going to just be like, I guess if you don't really know what you're doing, it's probably a good thing, but it's going to be pushing down peaks. And then if you leave it to on, it's going to take the highest amplitude level and the lowest, and I think it's basically going to level it out. I don't really understand it. I don't use it. Only time I use it is if I have a signal that's too quiet in my signal, then I just raise it up that way. Okay, so if you want to add other formats, like let's say you want an MP3, you want a PCM, either AIFF, WAV, CAF, uh, then you would go about it this way. So I actually have a CD player today. I hope this works. Hold on. Yeah, I can see that it works. We'll see. We'll see about this later. But DVDA. Yeah. Okay. So then you hit bounce, and then you have a file. So it's really it's pretty basic. When it gets to this first stage, why don't I just bounce an MP3 really quick? Boom, boom, boom. Everything looks good. Offline. and let's call this bounce. All right, I'll let that render in the background. So that's the very beginning of it, right? Now we are going to set the file name and location. I guess I completely skipped that step. Why don't I hit command period to basically interrupt the bounce? And if you want to check out my course, I didn't know you could do that in Logic. I go over all these little things where basically you learn all the details and secrets from Logic Pro. All stuff that you could also find in Edgar Rothermick's great GEM manual. So check out the work of Mr. Edgar Rothermick. And so if I go back to Command B and I start to render, then we go into this process of where is it going to go, right? Okay. So it says here the name of the bounce file matches the selected output channel strip. In my case, says bounce because I named it that way, but otherwise maybe it would look different. Hold on, now I'm curious if that's true. If I hit OK, yeah, it still says bounce. Let's see. Bounce files are saved by default. Where? User music logic bounces folder, but you can specify a new location. So let's say you want to save this to the desktop. Maybe you want to create a new folder called bounces or something. You can do that here. Then you would click bounce. When you bounce to multiple destination files, all the resulting files are saved in that folder. They're all going to have the same file name, but of course, the appropriate file extension. Also says you could bounce individual tracks in place and all tracks in place, but we talked about this. This is within the session. This is not outside. We will be burning to a CD. I know that this is an archaic art form now, but I don't know, just in case. Maybe you want to check it in the mix or you're going to go on a road trip or something and there's no streaming available or auxiliary cord or Bluetooth. 871. Oh, I guess we're going to get into that now. You know what? Let me just take a quick break. I know. What's up? What's up, good people? Eddie Gray back at it again. Hey, so we're gonna try this out. We're gonna try this out. Got a couple things going today, but I want to make sure that if we can get it in, we're gonna get it in. So let me just go ahead and review this part here and see if we're gonna burn a project to CD. Doesn't look that long. Yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and just set this up, and then we will call it here. So it says that we can burn to a CD or DVD. I actually have this. Some of you guys may know what this is. So we're going to try this out. I'm going to take out, this is a CDR and got this CD drive right here, which I'm connecting via USB. I'm going to plug that in just like that. All right, we're going to close this, right? Okay, cool. So everything is connected. And what else does it say here? Logic can be directly burned. Redbook audio, blank CDs or burned CDs to blank DVDs. Wait, hold on. Can directly burn Redbook audio to blank CDs. Gotcha. Or burn DVD audio to blank DVDs. Okay, cool. So if you ever want the audio, you can bounce to one or more audio formats and burn the project to disk at the same time. All right, so we're going to go through the same situation here, except this time we're going to select CD. I'll select a WAV file and the just making sure selecting burn automatically disables the PCM surround and split. Of course, it's not going to be two separate audio files. Okay, so let's go into Logic here. So again, Command B, right? We'll select that and burn to CD. No eligible drives were found. Really? If this doesn't work, then yeah, we're gonna have to kind of take it home because I'm pretty sure that I've done this on my laptop before. It's been a long time, obviously. You see, do I see a drive here? Yeah, you know what? I don't see a drive. I guess I'll try one last thing. I'm just gonna go into my music and see if I could see a drive. I don't see a drive, but it is connected. I can see that it is responding. So anyway, once you connect the dots like that, you should just be, I've done this before, it really is that simple. You hit CD, you bounce it, and that is it. See, is there anything else worth mentioning? Oh, hold on, maybe it picked it up now. DVD doesn't seem like it. Nah, yeah, no, it's for some reason I'm not getting it. But all right, let's see, 872. Is there anything important here? You get your burn options by selecting either the following modes, right? CD DVD burn. This option is only available as a CDDA is chosen in the mode pop-up menu. This option lets you add a data session. Okay, cool. So yeah, I guess all of this would depend on just your preferences, dithering. If you attempt to switch PCM resolution to 16-bit, DVD burning is automatically disabled. And with the bounce only a part of the project, you already know how to set that. And then you can choose normalization on and off. Sorry about that, guys, but again, I was certainly prepared. I brought the disc. I thought I would be able to help, but sorry about that. All right, we're gonna call it a day. The next time I see you, we will be covering setting bounce options, going over all the details. What is an AIFF? Why should I use a wave? Um, the bouncing MP3s, right? Best usages, best strategies, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to get into AAC files as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about dithering. I know this is a controversial subject. I know some people are diehard into dithering and some just are simply not. So anyway, looking forward to connecting with you tomorrow. Thank you guys very much for the opportunity as always. If you're liking the content, please go ahead and subscribe. You guys are really making this whole thing happen. I take no ownership over it because it's really truly your channel. So thank you very much. This is the Logic Sensei. You guys want to catch me at the Apple Forum community. I'm answering questions pretty much all the time. I'm on my route to get 1,000 points by basically hopefully the end of the week. So if you guys have any questions, hit me up. Eddie Gray at your service. We're out of here. Take care.